this section we are going to look at coffee in Kenya and Brazil, wheat in Kenya and Canada, as well as horticulture in Kenya and Netherlands. So those are the three case studies that we will consider in this topic, the crop farming. So let's start with coffee growing in Kenya and Brazil. Coffee growing in Kenya, and it should be noted that varieties of coffee grown in Kenya are the Arabica and Robusta. We have the Arabica and the Robusta. Coffee is grown in small-scale holdings as well as in plantations. The main coffee growing counties in Kenya are, we have in central Kenya there is Murang'a, Nyeri, Kirinyaga and Kiambu. In Nyanza region we have Kisii, Nyamira, Kisumu, Homa Bay counties. In western we have Bungoma, Vihiga and Kakamega. In the coastal region we have Taita Taveta around Undani. In eastern region we have Meru, Embu, Machakos, Makueni and Tharaka Nithi. Those are the coffee growing areas in Kenya. Factors favoring coffee growing in Kenya. The first one is favorable temperatures, where we have cool to hot climates with temperatures averaging between 15 to 30 degrees Celsius, but do not fall below 11 degrees Celsius. We have adequate rainfall of about 1,000 to 2,000 millimeters, well distributed throughout the year. So the rainfall should be high. Next factor is altitude, and we should have high altitude between 610 to 2,000 meters above the sea level. Availability of labor for cultivation of palm farms as well as harvesting. Well-developed transport routes to enable faster movement or transportation of the coffee berries to the processing plants. Availability of capital to enable purchase of farm inputs and other operations within the farms. Next we have cultivation of coffee. So how is coffee cultivated in Kenya? The land is first cleared and then plowed. The coffee plants are first raised in nursery for about 6 months. After this, they are then transplanted into the main fields. The young coffee plants are sheltered from winds and strong sunlight by trees or artificially made shades. Pruning, mulching, weeding, and spraying against pests and diseases is regularly done. Next is harvesting. So how is coffee harvested in Kenya? Harvesting begins after 3 to 4 years, and during this period ripe berries are hand-picked, then delivered to the factory the same day that they are picked from the coffee trees. So we have processing of coffee, and at the factory the coffee berries are passed through a machine that removes the outer covering pulp, a process called or referred to as skinning. The beans are then heaped in a tank to undergo fermentation for about 14 hours. The beans are then washed in clean water. They are then cured by drying them in the sun. 2 layers of the inner coffee husk are then peeled off by machines. The layers are then winnowed, graded and sorted according to size and quality. The beans are then roasted at temperatures of about 100 degrees Celsius. They are then ground into powder and packed, ready for marketing. So after the processing is done, the next is marketing of the coffee. So most of the Kenyan's coffee is handled through cooperative societies who own the factories. The cooperatives then sell the processed beans to the Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, that in turn passes them to the Coffee Board of Kenya, which arranges for overseas auctioning. So that is how marketing of coffee is done. So we have problems facing coffee farmers in Kenya. The first one is pests and diseases such as leaf rust, root rot, and coffee berry disease, which lower the quality and the quantity of production. There is adverse weather like prolonged drought, excessive rain, frost that destroy the crop in the farms. Next, we have poor soils due to monocropping that lead to soil exhaustion and therefore low production. And the problem is mismanagement of coffee cooperatives, and therefore this lowers the farmers' morale because of delayed payments made to farmers. Importance of coffee growing. 1. Foreign exchange earning through exports made to other countries. Coffee farming is a source of employment. It is a source of raw materials to coffee processing factories. Coffee growing has promoted development or improvement of transport or access roads in various parts of the country. Coffee growing in Brazil, and it should be noted that Brazil is the leading coffee producer and exporter in the world. The main coffee growing areas in Brazil is Sao Paulo, you have Ribeirão and Preto as indicated in the map. The map also shows some areas where coffee growing takes place. We have factors favoring coffee growing in Brazil. The first one is soils, and soils are deep, porous, volcanic that are rich in humus and potash, which favor growing of coffee. Next is adequate rainfall of around 1,525 millimeters per year and a dry period to allow the berries to ripen. Next factor is warm and humid climate of southeast Brazil and moderate temperatures of 14 to 26 degrees Celsius, which favor the growing of coffee. The fourth factor is the rolling Brazilian plateau around Sao Paulo that are wet and well drained, favoring the growth of coffee. Next factor is availability of cheap labor due to dense and high population, which enables growing and even harvesting of the coffee. Lastly, we have well-developed transport system, that is railway system that connects various plantations to export ports in the country. So those are factors that influences or favor coffee growing in Brazil. Next is problems facing coffee farmers in Brazil, and one of the problems is soil exhaustion and erosion, as little attention is paid to soil with no attempt to renew fertility or manage soil. This leads to the land being abandoned once the yields declined. Next problem is climatic hazards such as frost, drought, which lowers the yields, and therefore farmers incur great losses For instance, frost has made coffee estates to be replanted with sugarcane and soya beans. Another problem is overproduction, which leads to price fluctuations. This is encouraged by new plantings consequent upon high returns or coffee booms. Next problem is increased competition in the world market from other producers such as West Africa, Colombia, and East African countries. We have solutions to the problems. One is prohibiting new planting to reduce or minimize overproduction. Two is buying and storing surplus coffee when there is overproduction to supplement poor harvests. Three is the government has been encouraging crop diversification to reduce overdependence on coffee. The fourth solution is that when the prices are low, the government buys coffee from farmers and stores it, thus stabilizing the prices for the farmers. Importance of coffee growing. 1. Coffee is an earner of foreign exchange when exported to other countries. It is a source of income to coffee farmers. 3. Coffee farming is a source of employment to the farmers and those who are involved in the processing factories. It's a source of raw materials to the coffee processing factories. Coffee growing has promoted development or improvement of transport or access roads. Comparison of coffee farming in Kenya and Brazil. So let's start with the similarities. And in both countries, similar species of coffee is grown, that is Arabica and Robusta. In both countries, coffee is a major foreign exchange earner. And another similarity is that in both countries, the coffee farms are scientifically managed. We have the differences. In Kenya, the production is on a small scale, while in Brazil, the production is on a large scale. 2. In Brazil, the farms are exclusively on coffee, while in Kenya, the farmers practice mixed farming alongside coffee growing. Lastly, Kenya relies heavily on artificial fertilizers to curb soil exhaustion, while in Brazil, farmers rely mainly on natural soil fertility. So there is minimal use of artificial fertilizers. So that is a comparison of coffee farming in Kenya and Brazil, the similarities and the differences.